how to protect people from getting SIM swapped.
I must have become a target at that point because in 2018, ended up getting mobile hacked. I got SIM swapped. And so it was more than just a crypto loss. I took down a startup that I had been working on. So what I did during that time frame, I was thinking that somebody had to solve this.
The problem with centralization in general, right? There's all these data honeypots everywhere that are getting exploited.
If you are using just SMS verification alone, then you definitely have to worry about SIM swaps. But if you're using an authenticator app, you still can be SIM swapped. And it's not always about crypto. A lot of people are having their banks access their email, their cloud, their iCloud, their hosting accounts if they're a small business owner. One executive at a company got SIM swapped, and then it affected 66,000 people.
Just the 48-hour pain of having to argue with my provider to get my cell service back was enough to make me not ever want to have to deal with that again.
Hey everybody, welcome to the What is Money Show. I am thrilled to have you here joining me on my mission to help shine light on the corruption of money. Now, if this is your first time listening to the What is Money Show, I strongly recommend that you go back to episodes 1 through 9 first, which lays a lot of the groundwork for many of the concepts that we explore on the show. These first 9 episodes are my series with Michael Saylor, and thousands of people have told me that this is the best podcast series they've ever heard, hands down, and that it was instrumental to their understanding of money and Bitcoin. So if you're looking to start a deep dive into the nature of money, I don't think there's any place better that you can start other than episode 1 of this show. Now, a little bit about this show and how it makes money. The What is Money Show is 100% sponsor based. So all of our revenues are derived from direct sponsorships. And I strive to be very selective about the sponsors that I work with, specifically only using sponsors that I use personally, and also choosing sponsors that have values which are well aligned to the values expressed on this show, such as freedom, education, self-sovereignty, etc. So what I'm going to do now is a few ad reads right at the top of the show, and then I'll do a few more ad reads in the middle. And I hope you'll take the time to listen to them, as again, these are hand-selected sponsors, and I think you'll like what they have to offer.
Have you ever wanted to start a business in the Bitcoin space? If so, then the Wolf Startup Accelerator could be for you. Wolf is the first startup accelerator dedicated exclusively to businesses developing in the Bitcoin Lightning Network. 4 times each year, Wolf brings teams from around the world to New York City to work with like-minded entrepreneurs, pushing the boundaries of what's possible with Bitcoin and Lightning. The program is designed to help early-stage companies achieve product-market fit, develop their brand, secure early-stage funding, and grow businesses that fuel the global adoption of Bitcoin. Go to wolfnyc.com to learn more or apply today. Again, that's Wolf, WOLFNYC.com. Mark Kreitzman, welcome to the What is Money Show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Very nice to have you on. You are the founder of Efani. And we're going to do an episode today, really just quick and trying to focus on how to protect people from getting SIM swapped, which is a very dangerous threat for people that are into Bitcoin or into crypto. Because if you get SIM swapped, you can have assets stolen. So maybe we could start with just simple introduction, who you are, how you got on this career path, and how you got introduced to Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Mark Kreitzman, and I got into startups somewhere around 2002. I've been in cybersecurity really since 2002 and worked for a couple different sets of founders, built up a cloud email security solution that was sold to Microsoft Systems, and then joined under a couple other founders to build a web security cloud solution that was sold to Cisco Systems. Had a sort of various startups in between. And in 2018, I was getting into crypto, and I was working with some people out of Phoenix and putting my names on websites and getting interviewed on YouTube for some crypto news. And I must have become a target at that point because in 2018, ended up getting mobile hacked. I got SIM swapped. And I happened to be in the middle of the Arizona desert between Phoenix and Tucson. And I don't know if you've ever been in that spot, but there's no Walmarts out there. There's no stores. There's no payphones. And I was by myself driving to my father's house, and my mobile account went dead. So I had a choice of, do I drive 30 minutes, 35 minutes to the nearest Walmart and beg to use somebody's phone and call my carrier, or the 45 minutes to get to my father's house. So I chose that. And when I got up to the driveway and got up to the garage, the Wi-Fi kicked in and 6 passwords reset went up my phone. So my suspicion that my mobile account was stolen away then turned into, okay, it really, really happened. So, ran to the front door. My dad hadn't seen me for a while, so he wanted to give me the hug, and I'm like, oh, I got an emergency, and I called the carrier, and it did turn out that my mobile account was stolen away, and then they thought that I was the criminal at that point, and that I was actually the one trying to do the SIM swap. So I got through that process, and it was probably 2 or 3 times as long to get through. And then I was like, by the way, how am I even talking to you? And they're like, oh, that's a good question. So they looked, and they ported my number out. And then after 61 minutes, they ported it back. And so they tried to hide it. And so then I had to assess the damage. They got into 6 different accounts. I got into one of my crypto accounts, a cloud account, an email account, a bank account. But fortunately, the bank account was empty for that one. And a couple, they actually got into a hosting account for a website, and they did some damage to the website. And so it was more than just a crypto loss. It took down a startup that I had been working on. And it was painful. I didn't sleep for nearly 90 days. And every day I woke up, I would look at my phone. I would be like, do I have LTE? So if I woke up at 3, I'm going to look at my phone. If I woke up at 5 in the morning, and I didn't use Wi-Fi for a while because I thought that I'd wake up and the Wi-Fi would mask it. And so what I did during that time frame, I was thinking that somebody had to solve this. And so I found one person on LinkedIn that said they have a SIM swap solution. And I contacted him, and it happened to be the person who's the CEO of Efani right now. And so he had started the business under the name Don't Port. And it turns out that he was into crypto, that he was part of a small group that had founded a large Bitcoin ATM network. And so we kind of hit it off in that sense. And then I said, hey, I've been in cybersecurity at that point, 19 years, and I've been building companies. And so I actually just permanently shut down the crypto startup that I had and started Efani. So the first thing we did is we renamed it to Efani, and we've been operating under Efani now for about 4 years and 4 months, and trying to turn a tragedy into something that is half startup and half passion project to help other people, avoid what we went through. At the time, we didn't know, like, he had been a SIM swap victim, I think 3 times at that point. And and so he had actually solved it himself in a way that's very expensive way to do it. He kind of built himself a virtual mobile network operator just for himself. And we didn't know if we really had anything. And then the ledger hack came along. So it's 2 of us doing 24/7. The ledger hack hits, and then all the SIM swaps started really after that. And then that's when Andreas, the Greek Bitcoin guy, started talking about Efani on a podcast, and then we've been adding people ever since and growing, and now it's a lot of fun. It's a tough business. It's 7x24, but it's going excellent for us.
Fantastic. So what are some things people can do in practice to have good mobile security? I'm pretty sure using authenticator apps instead of SMS, 2-factor authentication, would be one obvious one, right? The fact that if someone SIM swaps you, they can't reset passwords to other accounts via text. They actually need to go through the device-specific authenticator app. That's one obvious piece of mobile security hygiene. But what are some other things people can do to prevent these attacks?
Yeah, so specific to crypto, cold storage is just obviously the best. So you just move it off chain, and that's the best. So Ledger, Tangent Wallet, and one of the issues with that is a lot of people are scared of doing that, and they're really afraid of making their crypto so secure that they themselves will lose access to it, and lose all of it. But there are companies out there that are there to consult you, and that's what their business is. So I was recently interviewed, for example, by Bitcoin Way, and that's a business where they will set you up with your own Bitcoin node. They will consult with you on how to move your Bitcoin to cold storage and seed phrase and how to store it. And so they actually might make a good interview for you. The next step above that would be the YubiKey. And so I recommend that everybody get a YubiKey. And that's your physical key that can fit, into the USB port, USB-C, of your phone, of your laptop, and that's a hardware key. So if you use Coinbase, for example, if you set it up properly with these physical keys, the only way that crypto can be moved out is to use that physical key and plug it into your phone. The next below that would be authenticator apps, and then initially, people usually start out with the SMS verification. But the SMS verification and the authenticator apps are easily hacked by these SIM swap hackers. And so, the SIM swap hackers are looking for data breaches. There's AI search tools now where if somebody wants to get every email I've ever used, every mobile line, every landline that has been associated with me for my life, one of these SIM swap hackers in about 90 seconds can most likely find majority of that information. And so we're just all being profiled, and these data breaches make it worse. And so if you are using just SMS verification alone, then you definitely have to worry about SIM swaps. But if you're using an authenticator app, you still can be SIM swapped. And it just means that the hacker has to spend a little extra time. They have to go a little bit deeper. They then have to SIM swap you. They have to get into your email. They have to see, are you using Duo, Google Authenticator, what your authenticator app is. And if they can get access to your email and you give them time, they will be able to reset the authenticator app as well. Another thing people have to be aware of is that if you start an account out as an SMS verification, and then you add the authenticator app, and then you add a YubiKey, is you want to make sure that a hacker can't SIM swap in, use the SIM swap to get into your email, then use that to get into like a Coinbase or some other online account or wallet exchange, and then get into your settings and remove the YubiKey. And so every time somebody logs into their own application, whether it's banking, it's not always about crypto. A lot of people are having their banks access their email, their cloud, their iCloud, their hosting accounts. If they're a small business owner, they can get into GoDaddy accounts and things like that. So it's a lot more than just trying to steal somebody's crypto. It could be social media. If you built up your social media of followers on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, and then all of a sudden you wake up tomorrow and that's all gone. Somebody else owns it. You'd probably be pretty upset, right? And then they'll ransom it back, for example, to say like, well, if you send me X amount of Bitcoin, then I'll give you access. Or if you don't do this within a certain time period, then I'm gonna start tweeting some offensive tweets, and it'll take you 2 months to recover from your reputation. And so it's all the above type of things that these hackers are doing. And then simple tips like a lot of people will make the mistake of setting up like an Android phone with a Gmail account or an iCloud account on the iPhone, and then they use that same email to go set up a Coinbase account or a Kraken or an Exodus or Bitfinex. And you're sort of setting up bowling pins for the hacker. It's just making it that much easier for them to not only SIM swap you after they've taken your mobile account, but also easier because they can do their homework ahead of time. So if there's access tools out there that these hackers can use to do homework on you and get your email accounts, then they could go to the top 10 crypto accounts and wallets and then just put that in and say, forgot password. Go down the line, see what kind of reaction they get. And they may know even ahead of time before they even SIM swap you what they need to do. So if you're somebody who has ever, you think back and like 4 weeks ago, did you get a request to enter a 6-digit code to any of your accounts? It most likely means some hackers has tested it and they want to see, are you SMS only? Did it ask for an authenticator code? And then they know ahead of time.
Wow.
And so that means, somebody could be setting you up, but, and also SIM swaps can actually hurt you by somebody else getting SIM swapped. And there's an article that came out about 10 days ago that I recently posted on my LinkedIn account. And it was 2 insurance companies came out and they were warning businesses about the liability and the danger of SIM swaps. And one executive at a company got SIM swapped, and then it affected 66,000 people.
Wow.
in his company. The other thing to be aware of is these carriers have been breached themselves. So AT&T recently came out with, and you can Google, AT&T data breach or T-Mobile data breach. They've all been breached at some point in time, but the most recent one was AT&T, and they lost 71 million records. And so that means 71 million people have their name, email associated with that account. Social Security was leaked as part of it.
Wow.
And a lot of people will use the same passcode, same email with AT&T that they will with their cable company, with their bank. And then just as a public service announcement, we discovered a couple days ago that there's actually a website now where you can go to this website and enter in an AT&T mobile number, and your information, the information for that number will pop up. So you don't even need to know them. And now whether that will get shut down, we'll see what happens. But right now that is publicly available.
Wow.
For people to do that. And so I'm sure hackers are doing that. The ledger list of their customer list is still sitting on the dark web in like 6 different locations. And T-Mobile's been hacked 3 times, I believe, in like the last 5 years. So it's millions of people. Like even like a tourism database could get leaked, or a hospital system gets leaked. And they always say like, oh, we got this under control, you don't have to worry about it. And they want people to just sort of forget about it, so that 9 months down the road, when people start having loans taken out in their name, or identity stolen, they can't link it back to that hospital system or whatever got breached.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it's a problem with centralization in general, right? There's all these data honeypots everywhere that are getting exploited. The other thing I would throw in the mix there is I always recommend people use collaborative custody or multi-sig wallets for their Bitcoin, just because that's very difficult to crack, even in the event of a multi-party SIM swap where multiple people in your family get SIM swapped. In Bitcoin, we often dream about the idea of forming citadels, which are independent, self-sovereign communities that have their own energy, food, and water resources. Today, that dream is becoming a reality at the farm at Okefenokee. The farm is a 705-acre regenerative agriculture community located at the Florida-Georgia line near Folkston, Georgia. The farm is known as the healthiest place on earth, and it includes orchards, organic standing gardens, regenerative animal pastures, berry fields, and much, much more. Today, the farm features 25 custom-built cabins and has plans to construct 225 more in the years ahead. The farm has its own food, energy, and water sources and is completely off-grid. So if you're looking to join a Citadel community comprised of sovereign individuals, then go to okefarm.com today to learn more about membership. Make sure to tell them that I sent you for a $21,000 discount on custom cabin pricing. Again, that's okefarm.com to learn more about joining this revolutionary regenerative agriculture community. Forget multivitamins and other supplements. Animal organs are the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. You can get 100 times more nutrients from organs than you can from muscle meats. But the problem with eating organs is that they are difficult to find in stores, they are difficult to prepare, and even when they are prepared well, they often don't taste great. Thankfully, Heart and Soil Supplements has made consuming organ meats so much easier by providing powderized organs in capsule form. Organ meats include everything your body needs to thrive: vitamins, minerals, peptides, proteins, and growth factors. This is why organ meats were the most prized foods for our ancestors. Fortunately for us, Heart and Soil makes these treasured foods easily accessible. So go to heartandsoil.co today and use discount code BREEDLOVE to get started on your journey to optimal health and vitality. Again, that's heartandsoil.co, discount code BREEDLOVE. I'd like to thank my friends at Swan Bitcoin for their long-standing support of the What is Money show. Swan's mission is to help millions of people get into Bitcoin, so they built the best solution to set up recurring Bitcoin buys and automatic withdrawals into cold storage. With the Swan app, it takes just 2 minutes to sign up and start buying Bitcoin. If you're a new customer, you get $10 in free Bitcoin for signing up, and the first $10,000 of Bitcoin you buy incurs 0 fees. If you're an existing Swan customer, then the next $10,000 of Bitcoin you buy now incurs 0 fees. So if you love to recommend Bitcoin to friends and family, then Swan is the best place to start. So go to swanbitcoin.com/breedlove to get started today. Again, that's swanbitcoin.com/breedlove. Let's talk about like the different methods of SIM swapping and what hackers do with it. I mean, I guess you've already touched on some of this. So if you want
Yeah, a little
to
bit.
roll that
And
into like what you guys do specifically to protect people from these attacks.
yeah, so one is, what is a SIM swap, just so people understand. And there's a couple misconceptions about how somebody can be SIM swapped or if they can. So the act of a SIM swap is like, let's say you have an iPhone 12 today, and tomorrow you go to the store and you buy an iPhone 15.
Mm-hmm.
And at the store, they port your mobile number over to this new iPhone 15.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously all your apps can be moved over to your new phone, including an authenticator app. And so that's actually a SIM swap. That's a legal SIM swap, a port over SIM swap. A SIM swap attack is the same thing. It's just that it's an unauthorized SIM swap. And the attacker could be your next door neighbor. They could live underneath you at a condo building, or they could be thousands of miles away. The distance is not relative. And what it means is that your mobile account, your voice, your data, your text, that mobile service that you're paying T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T for has now been moved over to point at a new SIM or eSIM. And now they have control over, they're making phone calls in your name. If somebody texts you, it's going to their phone, not yours. So your mobile service is bricked. And one of the misconceptions about the SIM swap is, well, somebody has to steal my physical phone for them to SIM swap me, but that's absolutely not true. And in fact, you could have the most secure phone on the planet. You could have the best antivirus, the best VPN. You could store your phone in a Faraday bag, and the SIM swappers don't care, because when they move your mobile account to point at your phone over to their phone, everything you've invested on that phone to secure it is now not even in the equation.
Yeah.
It is the mobile network pointing to this other phone, and everything you've done is not in the equation. Another misconception is, well, I've got a SIM pin lock on my SIM, so it can't be SIM swapped. And the only value of that SIM pin lock is for physical SIMs.
Yeah.
And what it means is, if your phone is lost or stolen, the first thing a nefarious person would do is they're going to try and log into your phone. And if they can't log into your phone, they're then going to pull the physical SIM out and put it in another phone. So if you've got a SIM pin lock and somebody pulls that SIM card out, what it means is that that SIM card now is dormant. It will only work in your phone. And so has value of like if your phone's stolen, but again, if you're you could have that SIM pin lock, but that becomes irrelevant. If your mobile account is no longer pointing to that phone, then it is under that category of irrelevancy, that it doesn't prevent anything for a SIM swap. And then the only really way to prevent a SIM swap is to do it as part of a network solution, which is what Efani does. And so that's the reason Efani was born and exists today, is because a couple SIM swap victims who paid the price emotionally and financially wanted to prevent it. And so at Efani, that's what we've done. We've built the SIM swapping into the mobile service itself.
Yeah, I should probably share my story here too, because that's what led me to you guys. And that's why I'm currently onboarding as a customer and have become an affiliate for you as well. So full disclosure, I'm an affiliate for Efani. But I was in Spain last year. This is summer 2023. And to your point about not needing physical access to the device, I didn't even have a SIM card actually on my phone. I had an eSIM. So
Yeah.
there's no, it's not even a physical SIM card. There's an electronic SIM. Apparently these are not swappable, according to the Verizon representative. But so I had this phone for, I don't know, a few months. I'm in Spain. I wake up one morning and I have no service, right? No phone, no text. I'm getting all of these reset notifications, attempted resets to my email, but like for just random things, because I had Authenticator app for everything. I didn't use SMS at all. So fortunately, no accounts were cracked, but it was a real pain in the ass just to get my phone back. Like calling
Yeah.
Verizon, I'm on the phone with them for 2 days, basically. Like, I'm no joke, like many hours a day for 2 days. They thought I was the SIM swapper. I had to do all this. They kept having to escalate it to different layers of security. It was like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And finally, after all of that complication, they arrived at the conclusion that it was some guy went to a Verizon store in like Idaho and bought a phone under pretending to be me. So he presented some identification pretending to be me, and then somehow was convinced the rep to port my number to the new phone that he bought, and that's what he was using to try and crack my accounts and reset passwords and all of that. So I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a SIM swap per se, but that was the attack
Oh, it
that
is.
rendered on me.
Oh yeah, that's a SIM swap attack. And so yeah, that's actually another myth is, and these account reps they're not technical. Like,
Sure.
So they don't, yeah, a lot of people will think, well, I have an eSIM, there's no physical SIM, therefore I can't be SIM swapped. But an eSIM is just the phones now are like the iPhone 15 is just 2 eSIMs.
Yeah.
So there is no physical SIM in the phone. And an eSIM is nice. There is a one piece of security you get from it is that to set up an eSIM is the carrier just sends you a QR code, or you take your phone camera and scan the QR code, and it magically gets activated. And all it means in terms of a SIM swap to that account rep in his mind is, well, it can't be SIM swapped in the sense of people can't pull. There's no physical SIM to pull out.
Right.
And eSIMs are one and done. Like once an eSIM is used and you're set up, then you can use that eSIM a second time. But it's irrelevant in the case of a SIM swap, because obviously somebody went to a store and said, oh, I want to move this line over to this new phone. And they just swap it over to a new eSIM in the hacker's phone.
Yeah.
And so you got attacked by one of the fastest growing methods of SIM swaps. And so Bart Stevens, the CEO of Blockchain Ventures, who came out in the middle of last year announcing he lost 6.3 million in his SIM swap. And he had the exact same method as you. And this is probably 30-40% of the SIM swap victims that call us wanting to switch to Efani. That's what happened to them. So if I wanted to attack you, and I thought about doing a video on this specifically, but I'm afraid that I I don't want to create another 100, 200, 300 new SIM swappers. But that's what they'll do is they'll go into a store, or let's say I have a buddy that works at a third-party phone store who doesn't necessarily care about his job. And so I'm going to set it up and he's going to verify me as you. So I'm going to go in there, and a lot of people don't realize that your carrier has your social security number, and they've set you up under credit. And so most of the people watching this, like your mobile account is set up as credit. And so you can go in there and say, oh, I'd like to buy this phone and, finance it however you want.
Right.
So the hacker goes in, they get verified as you, they buy a phone and order a line off your account. They then go home, call the 800 number, and during that process of buying the phone, when they realize it's going to be successful, they may do something like, oh, I want to change the email. And they may change the email or add another email to your account. Now they go home and call the 800 number on a phone number and a phone that's under your account. And now they know the verification info, and they're quoting specific they don't even have to social engineer them at that point. And then they would call them up and say, oh, I bought this phone, and they could ask about the phone, like, what's the device ID? Well, the hacker has it. You can, oh, this is an iPhone 15, it's silver, this is device ID. And then they'll say, yeah, I want my old line to my new phone now. And so they then go ahead and port that number over. Now you're in Spain, your mobile service is now bricked, and now you've got a hacker in the US that can just, like the last I tell, it's like we have a lot of people that do international traveling. Like that's an absolute no-brainer to use a phone, because if you've got a 10 or 11 hour flight out of San Francisco to Tokyo, or worse, like 24 hours to Vietnam through, Manila or something. And you're going to land in a country where you don't speak Vietnamese, and your mobile account's gone. The first thing, if you call in when you give them mobile hack, is they think you're the hacker.
Of course. And
then once you get through that process, because you're calling from a different country, and
the other real headache for me was they kept having to escalate it to tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, but they would typically say, oh, we need to do research and we'll call you back. They would, of course, never call you back. So you'd have to call back again, and I'd have to go through the whole song and dance and re-explain the whole thing and try to get through these tiers. And it's like I was having to basically, beat them over the head and say, please note the account. I've already explained this 5 times. And it was such a miserable experience, basically.
Well, they go into liability protection mode. So I'm surprised that you could even, like, if you found out what store it is. So you got farther than most people, because they go into liability protection mode. And so, like, when I got SIM swapped, I'm like, well, what store? Like, where? Like, how did they do this? Did they call an 800 number? Was it in a store? They refused to tell me what state, what store, anything. And they said, oh, we've got this 800 number you can call over here for the criminal activity. And so I called over there, and they said, well, this is for police only. So now it took me 2 weeks for them to even give me that number. They said, and then I called them, well, this is police only. So I go back to the police, and I am talking to them about the police report that I had filed, and they're like, oh, okay, well, where'd this happen? It's like, well, I don't know. Like, it was a SIM swap that could be anywhere. And so they didn't want to, deal with it at that point. I had to tell them, like, well, this is your duty. So they finally call, and then that criminal line at the carrier says, oh, yes, this is for police, but you have to have a subpoena. And so to even get any detailed information, and what they did is basically they when they go into liability protection mode, they try and, like, string it out, make you battle over, weeks, and they hope you just go away. And then if you actually are a victim in terms of a financial loss, then what you'll find out is that all the carriers have slid in arbitration clauses. So if you lost like $100,000, $1 million or more, and you want to sue the carrier, you're going to find out that same thing like Airbnb, they have this $1 million insurance policy, but then you find out that, oh, you can't sue them. You got to go through arbitration. And I talked to a number of attorneys, because there's law firms now that have SIM swap offers. You can Google like law firm SimSwap, and they'll have landing pages specific to them defending SimSwap victims. And so you have to go to them and agree, either pay them some money up front, or there's sort of like, shouldn't call them ambulance chasers, but they are people that will work for a percentage of the arbitration result.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and they're all settling. They'll say the same thing. They're settling for around 35-40% of your losses, and then they take their cut from that.
Wow.
And I've been asked to be a expert witness a couple times, and I've never done it.
Yeah.
But I've had 3 different attorneys in the last 12 months, and I'm sure I'll get another request in the next couple of months, because they look for expert witnesses. Because the last time I talked to a carrier or an attorney, he said he averages around 6 to 10 SimSwap cases at a time. He happened to have 8 of them when we talked, and he wanted to hire me as a witness for all 8. And he said that the judge in all 8 cases had no idea what a SimSwap was, and it was all one carrier. And he said it's usually spread out, but this happened to be all one carrier. And he said the carrier's defense was that SimSwap attacks have been normalized.
Wow.
And therefore, because it's normalized and because it happens to all the carriers, that they should not be held accountable for what has been normalized in the industry. And I guess that makes sort of sense for most industries. And so one of our biggest fans is actually the ex-CISO of AT&T. And so I've talked to him a couple times, and he said that we presented a legal problem for the carriers because we have a SimSwap solution that so far has been 100%. We guarantee it. We have an insurance policy as part of our offering, and therefore, like, a victim can, when they go to court, they could present that as, hey, like, this company did it, defends against it, but you're telling me you can't.
Right.
And I lost 600,000.
Are you sick of being robbed by politicians through inflation and endless money printing? If so, you need to be at Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville, Tennessee on July 25th through 27th. As the largest Bitcoin and Fintech conference in the world, Bitcoin 2024 stands as a beacon of monetary freedom, a glimmer of hope amongst a darkening macroeconomic backdrop. Top speakers, companies, and thought leaders from across the industry will convene in Nashville to look ahead to the next year and beyond. I will be there, and Bitcoin conferences like this have become my favorite place to socialize since becoming a Bitcoiner. Ticket prices will increase soon. Get your tickets now and secure your spot at this game-changing event. So go to b.tc/conference and use discount code Breedlove to sign up for the Bitcoin 2024 conference. Again, that's b.tc/conference, discount code Breedlove.
Over the past 9 years, I've been going through a pretty serious struggle with my personal health. It started with a sharp pain and stiffness in my hip after a lifting injury, which I later learned was related to some pretty extensive inflammation in my gut. Then I developed an autoimmune issue, and soon I was having joint pain all over, skin irritations, and all kinds of digestive issues. I visited many doctors trying to figure out what was wrong, but none of them were able to help me fix any of my issues. I eventually started to see an energy healer with whom I had some limited success, but it wasn't until I started working with the biohacker Anthony DiClementi last year that I was finally able to start making real progress on my healing journey. Anthony spent a lot of time with me learning about my specific situation and worked with me to adapt a custom health plan to address my needs. Anthony has served as a personal biohacker for celebrities, billionaires, and professional athletes all over the world. Besides helping people like me overcome health issues, Anthony and his world-class medical team also help guys that just want to optimize their cognitive performance, guys that want to pack on some muscle, and guys that just want to get shredded. Anthony keeps a tight book of business and is selective about the clients he brings on. To apply for Anthony's biohacking services, text Breedlove to 847-943-7221. Again, to apply for Anthony's biohacking services, just text Breedlove to 847-943-7221. So can we talk about that actually? Like, you mentioned Efani, I think you described it as a networked solution. Could you just, in broad strokes, paint the picture for how it works for people so they know what they're getting into?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. So Efani, we are a mobile service provider. And so we're set up as a reseller of Verizon and a reseller of AT&T.
mhm.
And so if you want to use Efani and get our security and privacy and insurance, you actually have to port your number over to Efani. So if you're on AT&T Direct today, then you can move to Efani. You're no longer going to pay AT&T or T-Mobile or Verizon. You only pay Efani. And as part of your payment to Efani, we're paying the carrier to provide you the mobile voice, text, and data. Now, what's different about buying direct from a carrier versus direct with Efani is a few major things. So one is that once you port your number over to Efani, we lock that account down. And everything we do from that point on is manual. So people will say to us, like, oh, I love your tech. I love the tech that defends me. But we've actually done the opposite. What we've done is we've actually stripped out the tech.
Low tech.
And so there's no free Netflix or no free Hulu or anything. That's data collection, third party, that's access. So we're not doing anything free, no freebies like that. It's pure security. And so you get ported over and then everything's manual.
Hmm.
Every other carrier reseller out there is part of this portal system where you can leave Verizon or T-Mobile, Mint Mobile, AT&T without ever having to talk to them.
Yeah.
Right. You could go to Mint Mobile and say, I want to move my AT&T to Mint Mobile, and Mint Mobile never has to speak to AT&T and you don't. But with Efani, if somebody wanted to leave us or they wanted to port from an existing phone to a new phone, they have to talk to us, and we have to verify. And so you're locked down. The other thing is that we eliminate. The other thing is we remove your personal information. So if you're using AT&T or Verizon through Efani, those two carriers don't have your information, and you can't steal what doesn't exist. So in the case of like a carrier getting data breached and all this information out there, your information does not exist with the carrier, and so therefore it can't be stolen from the carrier. That's our account. That's not theirs, and we also don't collect social security numbers and things like that. And so, and the other layer of protection is we lock out all the carrier employees, the stores, third-party stores, the independent retailers, where the vetting of employees is locking from having any access into your account. So if I were to go into, I have both AT&T and Verizon on a number of accounts because I'm in the business. And so if I were to go into, say, an AT&T store and hand them my phone, my passport, driver's license, answer any questions they want, and say, how much data have I used this month? They're going to help. We'll try and help. And after a minute or two, they're just going to say, like, we can't help you. We can't access your account. And that's exactly what we want. So we're eliminating all of the humans in between that can be bribed, that could be the hacker themselves, that could be social engineered and tricked, or they could be working with an outsider or organized to target people. We're eliminating all of that access. And also, like, if you think about every time you go into a store, you call the 800 number, you're giving them your verification information. And so they could collect that information. They could compile, every time they get 100 people's verification, they can sell it on the dark web, sell it to hackers. And that's kind of scary. And I always tell people, like, if you don't go with Efani, then just make sure that every time you go to a phone store, if you have a choice of going there in a Porsche or an old pickup truck, go in an old pickup truck. Because if you're going to the store, you're pulling up in a Porsche and a nice watch, and you've got the iPhone 15, and you're like, oh yeah, can you help me? I want to protect my crypto. Like, you may be walking out and be targeted as a victim. And they may have friends who live on the other side of the country. They're clean, right? They tell their buddy on the other side of the country, and hey, here's some information about their account, right, and help facilitate that. And
I was gonna say it's unfortunate we live in that kind of world, but it is what it is, so to speak. And
it's like the only industry where you're going in and you're telling somebody that's making minimum wage to $25 an hour, that may be disgruntled, with their job, that where you're giving them your PIN, right? Like even at a bank, you stick your card into an ATM, a little slider, and then punch in your code. And but with the carrier industry, they're just not far enough along, and there's also too many people. So every time they claim like, oh, okay, we got this covered, T-Mobile implemented a policy where a second employee has to verify. It didn't work because T-Mobile still is probably the most SIM swapped out of the three major ones.
Really?
It's fairly equal, but I would say it's because of the data hack that happened early last year when T-Mobile's hacked 37 million records. And my own father became a victim in that hack, and then he ended up switching to Efani.
Wow.
And at that time, and so every time there's a hack at these carriers, now these people are set up, right? They're going to start getting spam messages, and that's another warning of how to use your phone properly, because you'll get a spam message that says package waiting at the USPS or Amazon, and click this link here, or we're in 24 hours, or we're going to send the package back. So people will click that. Now, what that can do, whether it's an email or a text message, is it can execute code. So let's say I want to get a little bit more information about you. I can spam you with something to just try and get you to click on it. And then it executes a line of code that says, what carrier does this person use? What's the device ID? What's the SIM number? And now I have that information. Now I can use that with you don't even need to know somebody's name. If you have their mobile number now, you can, within 90 seconds, you can see every job they've had. You can see all the addresses, and then use an AI search tool on top of that. Now I get a list of all your emails, and so it just makes it so easy for these people to SIM swap. There's SIM swap forums. You can actually go into these SIM swap forums and say, I want to SIM swap this person, and have actually people bid on it, and say, oh, for $100, I'll get access to that person, or for 3,000. We know that one guy got arrested in the Bay Area. He was working for one of the stores, and he got 3,000 a pop. And then I think it was somebody at a store just a couple months ago. There's an article about a woman that was selling access for $100 per. And so that's what she was doing. She was, making, $15 an hour, and then selling access for $100 a pop, which seems awful cheap.
Right.
You think you'd want to get more, but there's you can Google that there's been like organized crime, like in the UK, where they're organized to SIM swap people in the US and target people in the US.
Wow.
And in the US, it's a global problem. It's happening in Africa, and it's happening in Australia and the UK, and we have we have people calling us from all over the world. And unfortunately, at the moment, we're only targeting the US because we're in this position right now that every time we add somebody, they're consumed. And so just in the US alone,
Busy enough in the US.
are like the growth, we haven't even, it's like a grain of sand of the opportunity just in the US.
Well, it's probably
We are
gonna
working on a
continue.
global solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on a global solution. We hope to release that in the second quarter of 2025. But for right now, it's just AT&T and Verizon. And that's keeping us awful busy. Like, we're in this weird position that every time somebody gets hacked, no matter what kind of mobile hack it is, it's usually a SIM swap, but they go on Twitter, announce it, and then everybody knows somebody who got SIM swapped.
Yeah.
Like a brother or sister, somebody they work with, or another influencer or something, and then they do research and they find Efani, and that's how they discover us in it. And
right.
so it's really, a lot of people understand about SIM swaps. They just don't know a solution exists. They haven't heard of Efani yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was pretty much my experience. Like I had to go, fortunately, again, nothing was compromised, but just the 48-hour pain of having to argue with my provider to get my cell service back was enough to make me not ever want to have to deal with that again. So I'm really glad that I found you guys. And, this is one company that like, I consider this almost like a public service announcement, like to have you on and just say, hey guys, there's a way to avoid this. Again, I'm honored to be an affiliate and, participate and help getting you some more customers. But I really hope this is something that's actually, people will embrace as a way to prevent these scams basically from being
Yep.
inflicted upon them. So,
Absolutely. And then just to clarify, what we offer in terms of the mobile service. So Verizon and AT&T, when you get those from AT&T, or excuse me, from Efani, it's voice, text, and data in US, Canada, and Mexico. So it's unlimited for the voice and text in US, Canada, Mexico. And you get the hotspot. And we also enable Wi-Fi calls and chats. So if you're behind a Wi-Fi network anywhere in the world and somebody calls your mobile number or texts you, you're going to receive it. And that also means that if you're behind a Wi-Fi network anywhere in the world, then you can actually do your verification. You get SMS verifications, or people can text you, and that works all over the world. And I've been in 7 different countries in the last 8 months. I'm trying to make up for lost time of COVID and Efani just being busy, and so I love to try to work from different countries. So I use Wi-Fi calling and chats every single day, all day long. And also, as part of the price you pay to Efani, we provide international data roaming. And so under the standard plan, like if you're going to go to Singapore, or Thailand, or UK, or Rio, you just let us know, and we provide free data via a data eSIM, and say, have a great trip, you're ready to go. So you land in Rio de Janeiro and you're going to have LTE 5G, whatever the fastest speed is for the week, the 2 weeks that you're there. And then you can use your WhatsApp and Telegram and VoIP services, and there's no additional cost. And that's one of the reasons why anyone who's an international traveler, we're like such a no-brainer.
right.
Because in the case of like with Spain, like if you were going to Spain, when you
I
landed
was paying for Verizon, you had $100 per line per month additional thing to get international data, and it was still limited. And I think it capped at some amount. And yeah, the line was already, I don't know, 100 and something dollars per line, so it ended up being like 200 and some $230 maybe per line, which is that's pretty high for
Yeah, so with the Efani, the way that we do the international is that the data part of it just comes with our service.
Yeah.
So if you can travel somewhere and you don't need to have that full cellular experience, and data works, that works for most of our international travelers. That's good enough. If you want the full cellular experience, then and you do a lot of international traveling, then I'd recommend our AT&T option. And it's basically a pass-through. So what we do is just add on AT&T's international travel pass, and that's $10 per day, or $100 for the month. And then you're getting the full cellular experience. But if you're okay with the Wi-Fi calling and chatting, and you're okay with the data, then there's no additional charges for that. And a lot of people like to just, if you travel to Spain or you go to Vietnam, then you have data when you land, and then you get a local SIM, and then you've got your local text and voice. And unfortunately, right now on Verizon, we can provide the free data. AT&T is much more partner friendly. We can give that seamless global international experience that people are used to directly. Verizon is not as partner friendly for the international, and so the only thing we can do on Verizon today is provide the free data and not the full cellular experience. So just to let people know and avoid any kind of complication in the future.
Yeah. That's great. I think I've kept you long enough, sir. I'm really glad you're doing this, though. This is obviously a really big problem in the Bitcoin/crypto universe. So glad we have a solution for SIM swapping. So it's Efani, EFANI.com. You can go to efani.com/breedlove is my affiliate link. And obviously we'll link to the company and yourself in the show notes. If anyone has any questions, they can reach out to you directly. And yeah, thanks for coming up with this. And thanks.
Yeah, so just so people know what to expect when they use that URL. So everybody that's listening to this, you definitely want to use the URL. We're providing a discount to influencers who are mainly in the crypto space, but are educating people not only on how to trade but also like how to keep themselves secure and protect their money. And so we're providing a promo code, and we've done that with your channel. So when you use that URL, there's a button there, get the safe plan. Click on that. It's going to ask you if you want monthly or annual. And so if you choose the annual, you're actually going to save almost 2 months of billing. And then in addition to that, there'll be a promo code that is going to auto apply $99 credit. And so your second month will end up being free. Or if you choose the annual plan, it's going to take it right off the top. And it's just auto applied. You don't have to type in Breedlove. And if you were to back out of that and go to Efani.com and try and buy, you get 0 discount. And so you want to use the promo code that is in the however you deliver it to the people. So definitely use that promo code, and it allows us to understand where customers are coming from, and that's really like in terms of any kind of marketing research. That's the only really thing that we actually sort of learn about people is just kind of what channel they're coming through. But definitely please use the URL.
Awesome. Mark, thank you so much for doing this.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Enjoyed it.